start. Okay. Well, welcome back to the Regular Dad podcast. Today we are joined by the Regular Granddad.
Hey, here I am.
Bill Leckie. You've heard us mention his name numerous times. He's the one that I do the other podcast that I'm involved with called The Divergent Sense. Now, we've wanted to have you on for quite some time. And recently, we received some questions that were a bit over our heads. So we had to seek a higher level of counsel.
Oh, boy.
And so thus...
Let's not set the bar too high of expectations here.
Well, I wanted to make sure that it reflects poorly on you if it doesn't go well. Because we tried.
That would be the norm. Yes.
So, all right. So this was a topic that was... this came from Dr. Kim. And... It's good, and I think I know where she's going with this, but this is, as a man, what does confidence look like with humility? There's the hyper masculinity and the things that you can get into, and the some alpha male stuff. But what does confidence as a man look like with humility without being arrogant or prideful? So this is going to be a powerful man that doesn't have to demonstrate, his power. He doesn't have to lord his authority over anyone. People have a natural inclination to follow his leading. He doesn't have to come in and act like he's king of the mountain.
Right. I think it all starts with what is confidence, right?
Right.
So there's, we know people who have a false sense of confidence.
Sure.
We know people who are insecure.
Oh, yeah.
But I think confident people have come to grips with who they are.
Okay.
They understand their own strengths, but they also understand their weaknesses. Right. And the thing that makes, I think, a confident man attractive and appealing to people is not that he's flawless or that he's perfect or that he knows all the answers. It's more of a reflective of the fact that he's very aware of who he is.
Absolutely.
Right? So for us, you and I, Ben, and Jimmy, who you're not looking at right now because he's behind the cameras.
Hi, Jimmy.
We are men of faith, right?
Yep.
And we make no bones of that.
Of course not.
So there's a sense of our understanding of what confidence is. It's not just in ourselves, but there's a confident realization that there is a purpose, there is a reason that God has put us where we are and the roles that we're in. So that plays into confidence.
Right.
The other thing about confidence is that it can be misplaced.
Sure.
We can be overconfident. So when I see what you were mentioning, the hyper alpha guys, the guys who are, I would say, the steroid crowd,
right.
they are typically the running joke is somebody's overcompensating for something.
Sure.
So if you can't be comfortable in your own skin of who you are, then you don't really have confidence. You can be arrogant. You can brag. You can overlord. You can overpower. You can get people to comply, but you're never going to get people to buy in.
It's a counterfeit confidence.
It really is. If you're, this has nothing to do with all of the guys out there that lift weights. Great. I love you. Awesome. You might look like a great weightlifter or whatever. Nothing wrong with that. More power to you. So I'm not trying to just limit or categorize that. It's one of those things that it's less about that. It's why. It's why do we do that?
Right.
Right. It's if your motivation is to be healthy, be strong, great.
Right.
If your motivation is to be intimidating or cause people to, acquiesce to you, then that's not healthy.
Right.
And I think we have a reaction to it. Our culture right now has had an extreme overreaction to the hyper alpha guy. The masculinity that's toxic. Mm-hmm. We hear that a lot, right?
Yes, good old toxic masculinity. Yeah.
But the reality,
it's a thing.
The reality is that's not confidence.
No.
That would probably be the opposite of confidence in my mind. Right. It would be insecurity.
Right.
Of course, I'm 6'5", about 270. I'm not a little guy.
No.
But
people would not make that mistake.
No, I'm not a small person. But in my head, sometimes I don't think of myself as a big person.
Right.
So I have to make a conscious decision to speak softly,
Right.
To my voice can carry, it can boom. So I try to tamp that down because I don't want to intimidate people. Right. So
you're like the bull mastiff sitting on the lap of the owner, like a little puppy.
I'm a lap dog, right?
What?
So you know what? Well, I
hanging
belong
out.
here. That's where I should be. But it takes some self-awareness to become able to deal with that, to be confident in who you are. This is who I am. I understand who I'm not.
Right.
So I'm not trying to be something or someone that I'm not. That confidence then I think is married to a humility. It's self-awareness brings humility.
Yeah. That's a great point.
That's one of those things. If someone does not exhibit humility,
Okay.
they are not self-aware, or at least as self-aware as they should be or could be. Because the more self-aware I become,
probably be taking notes.
the more self-aware I become, it actually brings about humility. I don't think higher of myself than I should. I don't think lower of myself than I should.
Right. And that's kind of the inverse, that another ditch that you can get into.
Totally. People either think too highly of themselves or they don't think highly enough of themselves.
Right.
And I would say one of the greatest, we need relationships to keep us in check on both sides of that scale.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
We don't need people who only blow smoke our direction and tell us how great we are. We need people who will call us on our stuff.
Right.
So to
No
remind
wind
us.
up the tailpipe, Jimmy.
But we do. We need those relationships. Now, you and I, we have those in our lives. We have people who can look at us in the eye and tell us the truth.
Yeah. You're one of those for me, and I'm surrounded by others, and somewhere, somehow, some way, I'm consistently getting looked in the eye.
Aren't we all?
I need it, though.
Here's the reality. We all need that. So if you have, and one of the things that men don't often do well or in a healthy manner is have good, strong relationships with other men.
Absolutely.
And so when we develop those friendships, when we develop those and we're intentional about that, then that helps our self-awareness. We can get called out for our stuff, but at the same time, we can be encouraged by what we do well.
Right.
And that helps us find that balance. So that balance of self-awareness leads to confidence, but it automatically is going to come with humility.
Okay.
So when we see someone who's boastful, braggadocious, arrogant,
right.
That's the opposite of what we think of with humility, right?
Right.
We can assume that's a very confident person. They may just be really deceived. You know, I mean, maybe they're just a jerk and they just have deceived themselves and believe their own lies. That's not someone that other people are going to say, I want to follow that guy.
Right. Yeah.
That's not going to breed that at all. And so we've seen this complete shift in the workplace, where the type of people who are leaders now in corporations, they're not your typical type A alpha males. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. They're not transactional. They're transformational in their leadership approach.
Which requires a level of authenticity that
it does.
You have to truly be or truly embrace a healthy masculinity and not have it just oversaturated with arrogance.
Right. Well, here's the thing. It's not about me anymore. If I'm a leader, it's now about my team.
There you go.
Right. So there's that transference. I think as husbands, as dads, as granddad, it's not about me.
Right.
I want my kids to do well. I want them to prosper. I want to set them up to succeed as best I can while still telling them the truth.
Yep.
And so that they don't live in some self-deception. I want to lovingly be able to say, that we don't do that around here. I want to be able to pull my grandkids aside and say, no, we're not going to do that, and help speak into it. But I think that humility with confidence is a sign of maturity. Okay. So we grow into it. We don't know what we don't know, right?
Ah, yes.
So I started in ministry actually when I spoke in a church my first time when I was 17.
There you go.
Okay. So
I did too. They just asked me to leave.
Yeah, you spoke up.
Yeah,
that's what
it was.
You spoke up in a meeting and they kicked you out.
Yeah,
it's different. I was actually supposed to be speaking.
Oh, okay.
They asked me
Gotcha. Good.
So it started as a very young man. I got married at a very young age. I was 19. Okay. My wife was 18.
Okay.
We don't recommend that. That was our path, right?
Right.
So we grew up quickly together, and we had to learn things. Very few things will challenge your selfishness more than getting married. I'm just saying it, putting it out there.
You
find out
to amen that too.
You
strongly.
find out how selfish you really can be.
Yeah.
When it's no longer you.
Right.
It's us. And decisions. You realize I've been making these decisions for all these years of my life as it results for me, as it applies to me. Well, now my decisions don't only affect me. Now my decisions affect us.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a shift in thinking that has to happen. We did on the Divergent Sense podcast. We did a series on the leadership mind shift.
Yes.
Leaders mind shift. So you can go check that out if you're interested.
Please do.
But there is a shift that has to be made. So confidence is not even really connected to great skill.
Okay.
It is an assurance that I am within myself. I'm operating within myself. I'm not trying to be something I'm not. I'm not ashamed of who I am.
Aware of your capacity and aware of your identity.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where confidence really kind of comes from. And so leaders who are able to do that, they've developed some maturity over time. They've learned about themselves. Self-awareness is a process, not a moment. It's not a switch that you throw. It can be painful. You learn things about yourself that you're not happy about. But it's all leading to an ability to be confident, but at the same time, you know your shortcomings and your weaknesses as well. So you don't come across to others as, hey, I'm the be-all, end-all here.
Right. Yeah.
I'm the superstar. I'm the celebrity. We have a very celebrity-driven culture. That's not just true in our American culture. It's true in the church as well. And the problem with celebrities is that they disappoint and they let us down.
Shocking.
And so it's happening right now in the culture.
Yep.
Anybody following the Diddy thing?
Well, dear Lord.
It's happening. It's terrible. And then we know in the church stuff is happening as well. So confidence, our topic, I believe you said, was confidence without arrogance and humility. With humility. And I think that stems from self-awareness, some maturity, and as well as you just become comfortable with who you are.
Right. Okay.
And that you don't need constant affirmation from someone else to think that, oh, I'm okay.
Right.
I understand that I'm on a journey. I understand that I'm growing. I understand that I'm still learning. I have not arrived.
Right. Okay.
I do not consider myself an expert on anything. If I would say I'm not an expert, I'm just experienced at this point.
Right. So
seasoned.
There you go. Well, so do you have anything else to say on that? If not, that's probably a good place to land the plane, so that we don't.
I'm not flying this thing, boss. Okay. You are.
Well, that's a change up in and of itself. But so there's two things: a book recommendation on this, a portion of this topic anyway. And I've mentioned it several times. Divergent Sense podcast, this podcast, but it's Strong and Weak by Andy Crouch. It's a very small book, and you think it might be a simple read, and maybe if you are a high intellectual processor, it might be a simple read. For me, it was very challenging because I had so much to learn from it. So I had to, I was kind of rereading it on the fly. But it introduced to me the concept of vulnerability as a required component.
That is excellent.
Of strength.
It's excellent because that is sometimes when we think of someone who's confident, we think that they are impervious to just the things going on in life.
And that's the way you should come across.
Right. And that is nothing could be further from the truth.
Dang straight.
It's the ability to be authentic. I have friendships and relationships, which you're included, that I can come in and say, well, this sucks right now. I'm not having a good day. This is not fun for me.
Right.
That level of vulnerability, though, has to be married with trust.
Yes.
Right? So those things are kind of inseparable. But when you have those well-rounded relationships in your life, you can have confidence even though you may be struggling. I can be a confident leader,
right,
even if not everything is going the way I would like for it to in my life.
There you go.
So that confidence is rooted more in an awareness of who I am,
right,
what I'm capable of, and the humility that says, I know I'm not there yet. That balance comes across so that when you see I will just go out and say this. I mentioned earlier, I'm 6'5", about 270. I have dealt with people who we call this. I hope this doesn't offend anybody. The phrase "little man syndrome."
Yeah. No.
Anybody ever heard of that?
Oh, yeah.
So it's.
I've never been accused of it.
Well, I've never been little. So but when people are trying to overcompensate in any area of life,
of that.
right? Trying to overcompensate, being overly confident when everyone knows.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, right.
So you come across overly confident, and I think it does just come right back down to I can't love others well if I don't know how to love myself well.
Right.
In a healthy manner, be okay. This is who I am. This is how I was made. This is what I do. This is what I'm capable of. And becoming comfortable with that and not feeling like that's a negative,
Right.
but rather embracing it, leaning into it, developing that learning mindset that we talk about so often on the other podcast. It's an issue of internal understanding of oneself.
Right.
And the more we have of that, the more confident we will come across. But it also will help us stay humble because we know we haven't arrived. We haven't gotten there yet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's fantastic. And thank you so much for that insight and wisdom. And thank you for joining us. We're going to have you on for a few episodes. So don't go anywhere. Y'all don't go anywhere either. Stay tuned. Next week, you'll probably see his smiling face again. Before we part ways today, social media profile that we want to share with you that actually kind of touches on some of the confidence. You can see overconfidence and underconfidence. Check out the Qualified Captain on Instagram and Wavy Boats. Now, the Qualified Captain has all types of captain-based boat fails or boat-based fails anyway. And man, some of them are humorous and some of them are just like gut-wrenching. But Wavy Boats, I think the majority of their content comes from Haulover Inlet. They have some cameras and some drone footage and setup. And Haulover Inlet is just north of Miami proper, if I have my geography right. But it can get a little spicy coming in off the Atlantic and transitioning there. So you can see guys come in and they're like, oh, look at me. I got $1 million boat and he's got, bigger ego than he does brain. And he stuffs the bow because he's going too slow or he gets airborne because he's going too fast. Yeah. And it's just,
we call those people who they may be wrong, but they're never in doubt.
Right. Absolutely. Right? Yes, completely. And so it's just some relaxing content to make you feel good about yourself. So anyway, y'all stay tuned and we'll see you here next week.
See you.